viewers, my name is Adam. This is Seeking Media Productions. And in this video, we're going to discuss the top 10 Godzilla movies. In 2019, this will mark the 65th anniversary of the Godzilla franchise, dating all the way back in 1954. And since then, there have been more than over 30 plus Godzilla films and many other properties. And coming as a culmination of a good pinnacle mark in 2019 will be Godzilla, King of the Monsters, produced by Legendary Pictures, distributed from Warner Brothers Pictures. And as a road to that film, each month I will be posting a video relating to the Godzilla franchise and maybe some possible MonsterVerse in properties. So over the years, Godzilla have been a very varied mix of quality as of over the span of basically decades. And I will be the one who will say that he doesn't really have a good track record as in the quality of his films overall. There is a inevitability that comes multiple films, there will be some downers, as there are some definitive bad movies, but I will say that from a good entertaining perspective, most of Godzilla movies do come out to be just okay. But in this video, I'm going to be highlighting the ones I feel as though, no matter if you're a Godzilla fan or a person who wants to get into this franchise, these are some essentials that I think are worth checking out. So my number 10, I'm going to say that Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, might be a good introductional piece. This movie features basically all four of the major classic monsters, from Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, and Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. And surprisingly enough, there will be the four major monsters who will be featured in the next upcoming American-produced Godzilla film. This is a transitioning period from the tone of Godzilla's movies as well. This basically, from the beginning of the film, it does still with a very serious tone, but slowly throughout, especially in the third act, that's when the film starts to take upon a much more lighthearted tone, something that will be much more present and throughout the Showa era of Godzilla films, as those are the ones that span from the 60s to the mid-70s. Number 9. Number 9 is something that is the high point of the Showa era, and that is Destroy All Monsters. Destroy All Monsters was at the point, it was said to be like the last Godzilla film. Heck, even Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, was possibly going to be a last Godzilla film that was supposed to be produced in Toho. But you'll understand that for every consecutive period, there's just going to be another Godzilla film regardless. But this was supposed to be the all game changer. This featured almost 11 monsters that Toho had produced at this point. At least the much more known ones, there's been others that's not featured in this film. But a major highlight is that final third act battle. The one that sells the film is the big fight with Ghidorah and each of the other monsters that featured in Monster Island. Number 8 is Godzilla 2000. There's a funny behind the scenes scenario, since this is basically a knee-jerk reaction film, because America had to, when they had the rights and they made the very first Godzilla in name film, let's just say the Toho wasn't pleased about it, but they went straight to work on trying to make a Godzilla that's much more worthy to the franchise. So Godzilla 2000 is essentially something important to me as the first major Godzilla film that got me into this franchise. And something I think some other Godzilla fans of my generation too, because this will be the last Godzilla film in a while to be featured in theaters that was produced from Toho. It would have been like a decade and a half later for a next Toho produced Godzilla film Shin Godzilla to be featured. But what makes Godzilla 2000 so special is the fact that it felt like classic Toho, but it's like a modern look to it. Godzilla has a different radical design, but it's nothing too radical to the point it's not unrecognizable as far as the Zilla interpretation that America did in 1998. Number seven in my list of top 10 Godzilla films is Godzilla Tokyo SOS. This film is the direct sequel to Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. It's very rare for a Godzilla film over decades that a film will have a direct sequel to. Most of the time, a Godzilla film is basically like an anthology film, where it's mainly just a standalone property. But there will be times again, mainly throughout the 90s, when Godzilla films become a little bit more serialized in its interpretation. But Godzilla Tokyo SOS is, of course, a direct sequel to that to the aforementioned film. What I like most about this is one of the most stunningly looking Godzilla films to the back in the early 2000s, and it has a very good, fantastical yet somber tone that helps ground the film in reality. Even though it features the fantastical elements directed from Mothra, but it has a good finality to it as well. This would have been a nice culmination of the storyline that they've set it up. Even though that in the Millennium series, each film in the Millennium series has been a standalone property in its own right. This one feels like a good culmination to a story that developed in the films that they, in the film themselves, mentioned from the first Godzilla, the very first Mothra film, and the Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. So it feels like a good 4-movie arc to this story that I feel as though is a great send-off to that storyline. Number six is Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2. I have 2 Godzilla movies that feature Mechagodzillas in back to back. Something about this film that just resonates me a little bit more than some of the other Mechagodzilla films. I know that in the Godzilla community, the second Godzilla, the featured Mechagodzilla 2, is not really fond of, because the look of Mechagodzilla in this one doesn't really have that much personality. It truly is just a robot being function from humans. But this one, even though it features this type of Mechagodzilla, this does pose a formidable foe, because it also this movie boasts some of the best fight scenes in the Godzilla franchise. Rodan features in this film as well, and it also starts to take upon its own little storyline that carries over into from this one to the end of Godzilla Godzilla versus Destroyer. But here we are, we have a film that features not only for some of the best fight scenes in the whole Godzilla franchise, but also one of the best scores to be made from Akira Ifukube. Number 5 is The Return of Godzilla, or when it was releasing over here in America, Godzilla 1985. This will be the first Godzilla film to start the Heisei series, or the 90s series, or somebody wants to say, even though this one came out in 1984 originally. But the Return of Godzilla is basically a return to form to the original serious tone that the original Godzilla film delivered. And this will start the that storyline that will wipe clean of the original Showa series, except the 1954 movie. But this is one of the few Godzilla films that feature just Godzilla as the only monster to appear in, and he's just attacking Tokyo by himself. This does introduce elements that will feature later on into Heisei series, i.e. the Super X vehicles and also the much more dynamic but a much more powerful Godzilla figure. This will also show a much more step up in production design as well in the series, as they start taking the series property a lot more serious. Coming up at number 4 is the direct sequel to The Return of Godzilla, and that is Godzilla vs. Biollante. Here we are in the last 4 Godzilla films that are up on my list, and these are the ones that are truly the ones that I watch repeatedly. Godzilla vs. Biollante begins to open the world of Godzilla as it delves into the much more very much hyper sci-fi elements that not just the show area like playfully dealt upon, but this is a lot more hyper and also something a lot more grounded as well, while still maintaining that serious tone. We have a lot of factors that come into play in Godzilla vs. Biollante, like bio-warfare, criminal espionage, and also like a very different score that is not featured in any other films, but it's something that's unique to this one. Some people might not take a liking to it because it's such a departure. The Return of Godzilla also features a very departure score as well, as these are composed by very different composers that are not Akira Ifukube. But I feel as though that both the scores from Return of Godzilla and Godzilla Biollante are equally intriguing and interesting in their own right. Godzilla vs. Biollante in itself features one of the most unique monsters to be ever in this franchise, as Biollante is the first of in the franchise in the Heisei era to be like a byproduct of the Godzilla DNA, as Godzilla's DNA is basically a major plot point in the series going forward. And it's this plant monster that on paper sounds ridiculous, but the interpretation feels very much organic, especially delve into the emotional core of the film as well. Mothra versus Godzilla. Mothra vs. Godzilla is not the first time Mothra will appear in the Godzilla franchise, but it is the first. And I believe the first encounter with Godzilla and Mothra is his best overall. Here we have basically the beginning of the solidification of how Mothra and Godzilla are the most iconic monsters to come out of Toho. And accompanying it is you're bringing in the much more fantastical elements from Mothra and the grounded but yet militaristic nature of Godzilla, combining into true to the Godzilla mythos. It's basically the beginning of how Mothra is depicted as the hero more often than not when she's featured alongside Godzilla. Number 2, I have to believe that's on par with my number 1 that most people will probably guess by now, but number 2 is Godzilla vs. Destroyer. Godzilla vs. Destroyer is the last film in the Heisei era, but it acts as though it's the greatest send-off to the Godzilla character. Because at the time, this was supposed to be the definitive end to the whole series. But we know from the previous film on this list, Godzilla 2000, that wasn't the case. But even though that is all that aside, Godzilla vs. Destroyer delivers some of the best performances in a Godzilla film. Great looking film as well. The special effects at the time for a Godzilla film was also way up there, as it also helped, it wasn't for the assistance of visual effects that helped delivers the final send-off to Godzilla in the film. Something that still holds up today. Destroyer is basically the most menacing of monsters in the whole series, as is also a physical representation of the device that originally killed Godzilla way back in 1954. But nothing can compare so far is my number 1, which is Gojira, or Godzilla King of Monsters. This one has a live version, like 2 versions, actually many versions, but yeah. This is the one that I actually hold multiple versions to as well. I have the Criterion collection. I have the original Japanese Masterpiece collection for this one, as well as the Godzilla Kingdom Monsters on DVD. This one is the OG version of the monster. So far, no other monster movie in the Godzilla franchise can compare to this one, but there's nothing that I really can't say differently for this movie. The fact that it's just one of the greatest films to me in cinema. Basically holds a good candle to my heart and many others. I really hope that other films can come have that same impact as the original Godzilla, even though at the time it was a pioneer in Japanese visual effects, and also a great, harkening back to the metaphor that it once spawned with the whole nuclear age and fear of it. But there's just something that rings true to the original Godzilla that not other Godzilla movies have yet to help capture. So there you have it. These were my top 10 Godzilla movies. So again, my name is Adam, and this has been a Seeking Media Productions. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and also venture across our many social media platforms from Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.